Hey there, guys. For those of you that are watching this later on, meaning not today at 12 o'clock-ish Central Standard Time on the 18th of January 2020, I'm just going to wait a minute for folks to jump on that want to catch this live. Wife has got me out doing some shopping. And of course, I'm no idiot. I'm going to sit in the nice truck here and enjoy. So we're going to talk. I'm going to wait just a minute for folks to jump on. I'm going to talk for a minute about strategy versus tactics and what's just plain dumb. Strategy versus tactics and what's just plain dumb. Put a post up the other day on our Instagram account. Hey, man, how are you, brother? Put a post up on our Instagram account. My daughter had passed a local Starbucks, and sadly, a man had a massive stroke while driving, drove his vehicle off the road across two lanes of oncoming traffic and smashed through the front of this beautiful brand new Starbucks, hurting people and dying in the process. My daughter had some words about it. She took the picture while stopped at a stop sign, and it's first point. If my daughter ever writes things online and you write rude comments, I'm just going to block you. It's my kid, more important than anybody in my life. So don't do that. But she wrote some things that were actually very thoughtful and touching. So I shared it and I added a few thoughts of my own. One of them is this: how often do we no gun signs is not what I'm talking about. And I don't think that's dumb. That's an American liberty. If somebody owns a piece of private property and they want to limit something on it, it's their right to do so. And I can talk about that in depth if you'd like to, but I want to get this point across. So we go out to eat with our buddies, our tactical-minded friends, and I'm going to make this point pretty bluntly, and they fight for the spot where their back is against the wall or where they can see everything. And what oftentimes happens is you don't see everything. You see a thing. Usually when I'm with a group of my guys, I'm pretty relaxed because there's so many people watching and seeing. When I'm alone with my wife in a place that I've never been, I might be a little bit more acutely aware of what's going on. But how does one know that the threat is not coming from the kitchen? How do they know there's not going to be a fire, a vehicle crashing into the building? So we got a lot of comments on that post, and it made me think, hey, based on what people are saying, we need to talk more about this. Tactics. They are very and this, you can have driving tactics, right? You can have cooking tactics, literally. The way that you process food, there can be tactics applied to that. So you've got strategy and tactics. Strategy is the broad plan to reach a goal, right? So in war, you have a strategy, right? We're going to land men on these beaches. They're going to push forward across this area, etc., etc. Tactics are the individual components, right? The way that you attack an objective, the way that you operate the vehicle. Those are tactics, and those tactics are individual parts of a strategy. And we could go deeper and deeper into that, but the one thing about a tactic is that it's specific. It's crafted and created for a very specific goal. And so in that post, I said sometimes it's just tact-a-stupid or tact-a-dumb. Play on words, right? And that hurt a lot of guys' egos and feelings. They got upset because that guy is the guy that wants to go position himself just so. You know, right now I see 180-ish degrees. If I tilt my head a little bit, I can see like 210 to 220 maybe. If I spin all the way around, I can see 360, right? Except for my headrest, so I might need to pop my head out. You can't ever watch that at all times. So here is a tactic, right? Where you sit, where you put your butt is not a tactic. But if I choose to look for certain bits of information that would tell me of a problem, that is a tactic. So I'm going to pay attention to anybody that looks like they have a weapon in their hand. That's a very broad, could be a very broad thing, right? Anybody that looks aggressive. And I'm just giving you some examples. If I'm at a kid's school and in walks a guy in his underpants with a baseball bat and face paint on, that's weird, right? That looks out of place. A grown man in his underpants with face paint on and a baseball bat isn't something that normally walks into a kid's school. That said, we have way too many people that invest way too much time in the tool, meaning the weapon, right? You know, I've got a weapon with me. The weapon in the application of it is a tactic, but more important than that tactic is me not having to get to the point of using that. So some folks say, well, I'm in an area that there's not trouble. That vehicle that crashed into that building, and don't fixate on it. I'm not telling you you're going to get hit by a car or something like that. There is so much outside of our control. Your face is aggressive. Okay. So the problem with do I go to church? No, I do not go to church. This is my church. The world is my church, but that's another story altogether. Anyway, you know, now let's talk about churches. We've got this new movement of church security, something that we've been doing with people for years, but it's not specific just to churches. There are some finer points about church security that are different than other places. One of the main things is you got to be welcoming. You're welcoming people in because that's what the church is for. People that are in need, people that are hurting, people that are looking for fellowship and friendship and a sense of togetherness. And sometimes those people that are coming in might be in a bad spot mentally, financially, spiritually, physically, and you start turning anybody away that looks out of place, and you will have nobody in your church. A big problem that I have with church security in general is there's a lot of people willing but not able. I don't want to talk about what just happened in Texas because there has been more ding-dongs talking about that. I did put a post out on that, and I will say I found it horrible, completely horrible. There's a video up here of me talking in this manner. Horrible how many people shared that video. I didn't share it, and they shared it hours after it happened. They shared it because they wanted to talk about good guys with a gun stops a bad guy. How about pay attention to a dude coming into a building dressed in a costume with a wig on and talk to them, intercept them, see what's up. Put people in that position that understand how to read body language, how to talk to people. How about not sharing a video where innocent people are shot, in this case, murdered? I'm not talking about the bad guy being killed. I'm talking about the parishioner in the church that was killed. That guy's got a family, man. Those his friends in the church, his fellow church members, watch the guy freaking murdered, and then we share it all over the internet. But that's not my point either. Tactics versus strategy. So the strategy. Let's talk about a goal first. This is CarryTrainer 101 stuff. This is success in anything 101 stuff. What's the goal? Today, my wife asked me to drive her to this store. We're going out of town for work, and she wanted to get a new outfit or something. I'm sitting in the car. I'm not going in that store. But we got an ice storm coming, and the roads are a little crummy. She's got an SUV, but she trusts me driving over her, and it was like a 40-mile drive. So I said, sure, I'll come. So the goal, get my wife to the store and back safely. I'd make sure I've got a shovel in the truck. I've got chains in the truck. I've got, and we're not in an area where we're out in the sticks. We'll be driving, past civilization the entire time, but I've got gas in the truck. I've got everything I need to get me to and from. I've got gloves, extra clothing, because we're supposed to get sub-zero temperatures and 50-mile-an-hour winds in the next few hours. So my goal is to get here and back. The strategy of how I'm going to do it is me getting here, right? It's me deciding I'm going to do all of these things, have these things in the truck. I'm going to drive with good discipline. I'm going to keep my tires from breaking loose. I'm going to pay attention to everybody else. We got hit by a huge chunk of ice coming off of a truck here that I had to swerve around, so it literally didn't break the windshield. Those are tactics. How I'm swerving the vehicle, how I'm working the pedal, how I'm choosing to literally inject my will into the world around me. Those are tactics. How you breach a doorway is a tactic. How you close on a person that's got a drawn gun and grab that gun instead of drawing your gun and trying to shoot them is a tactic. How you intercept somebody before they ever draw a gun is a tactic, right? We have way too many people carrying guns that really don't understand what fighting is, how hard it is to actually deal with problems with a gun, and they rely way too much on the tool. So when I say things like tact to stupid, yeah, man, it's tactically stupid. It is tactically stupid to think that putting yourself in a certain position in a restaurant somehow makes you safer when you're not looking at the whole. It makes you safer in one sense. It makes you safer when somebody's coming from the way that you're facing and you have the ability to see them. That is, if you're paying attention. That is, when you're not stuffing your face. Hey, are you drinking? Are you having any alcohol while you're in that restaurant where now your senses are diminished? Are you going to ever get up and go to the bathroom? Because if you do, you're now leaving your family, your party of guests without you. This is my point. We think we're doing something. Now, on that, of course you should position yourself where you can see. Of course you should. But all the while, you must understand that you're neglecting all kinds of other stuff. Add to that, and this is where this conversation always goes, are you physically fit? So if it's so important to you to always sit in a certain place or to dress a certain way so that you can access your tools, are you physically fit? Are you acutely aware of what your physical limitations are? Are you willing mentally, spiritually, and ready to apply force against another human up to taking their life to impose your will on the outside world? And that's what this is. When we're talking about tactics, I'm imposing my will. If my car starts to slide, I need to impose what's in my head into this vehicle to make it do a certain thing in this physical world around me, like not slide anymore and continue going where I want it to. If somebody is a threat to me or my family, I need to impose my physical will. Now, that does not always mean drawing a gun or being aggressive. It very well might mean me taking my family and leaving. My will is directly connected to my goal, which is to live a long, full life, to keep my family safe. If you're a law enforcement officer, it's to keep your community safe, your partner safe. If you're a soldier, sailor, or airman, it's to keep your brothers and sisters in arms safe, right? And to achieve whatever objective you might have. And I think that is often the problem. We hone into these cute ideas. I'm going to start my engine. It's getting cold. We hone into these cute ideas of tactics, here's me doing this sub-second draw stroke that everybody now thinks is what is the way, right? The way. Whoever's practiced a martial art understands the journey, right? The journey of going down a path, right, of self-discovery. Going to the gym to develop your body, that is a path, a way. Religion, developing a relationship with God is a way. Developing a relationship with a person. There is a way to self-protection in tactics, and there are many ways that suck. There is a reason that you don't see certain forms of combat in, say, the UFC. And no, it's not because they're too dangerous for the UFC. It's because They don't work against somebody that knows certain fighting techniques. Oh, boo-hoo. But my certain martial art is just too deadly. No, it's not. It's not. That's not it. There's a reason that certain tactics, such as there are people that have become somewhat famous mostly in their own mind on the internet for the way they shoot guns. The way they shoot guns, though, is not really something that's tactically sound. So something for it to be sound, when we think of structurally sound, it means that the building is strong, secure. The wind's not going to blow it down. An earthquake's not going to knock it down, right? You craft a building to be structurally sound for the conditions. If you live in the Arizona desert versus Alaska, you build something different. So a building that's structurally sound in Arizona would need to be crafted different to deal with 8 feet of snow in Denali National Park of Alaska. For our tactics to be sound, they have to be crafted for whatever your goal is. That's the problem, man. That is really the problem. And so if you came to this video expecting me to say do A, B, and C, you won't get it, because tactics are always in flux. I told this story before a few years ago. The day after Thanksgiving, my wife and I and one of my sisters were sitting around our fireplace enjoying some drinks, talking about Christmas that was coming up, and it was pretty late. It was 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I got a phone call from a dude I know from another state that's a friend that was very disturbed. And I came to realize, I'm like trying to settle him down, he is in the middle of an active shooter scenario in a mall in his hometown in Alabama. And he does not know what to do. And he called me. And I was like, oh, wow, man, like this is literally happening. I hear pandemonium behind him, people screaming. You can hear the sound of footsteps pounding, in the mall. People are running. This is on Black Friday. So my first thought was, I said, hey, man, who are you with? Who are you responsible for? He was thinking, should I go find the threat? And he said, well, I'm with my mom, my aunts, my cousins, my girlfriend. I said, your job isn't to go find whoever's shooting people in the mall. Your job's to get your family, your women, the hell out of there. And he goes, well, my truck is here. Well, where's your truck? It's on the other side of the mall. I said, find an exit, man. If you got to break through a freaking wall, get out of the building with your family, call an Uber, and leave. Get off the premise, because a situation like that mall's going to turn into pandemonium with cops and yellow tape and investigators and news cameras. You want to get out of there. And he goes, well, my truck's here. You can come back for your truck tomorrow, dude. Leave. And it ended up that the situation was not really an active shooter situation. It was some gang violence that happened in the food court of the mall, but you don't know that these days. And everybody reacted like that. They freaked out. They took off running. He had bad tactics. His tactics were call a friend, phone a friend. That's not it, man. And that is the real problem with everything that's gone on the last few years. There's been this explosion of, I want to protect myself. I want to spend my free time watching videos where crime occurs. I want to spend my time going to the range and shooting and practicing drawing and shooting and drawing and shooting. And we're not really developing actual tactics that support our lives, that support. Somebody sent me a video of a guy teaching CQB. I'm no CQB expert, and I'm not going to pretend like I am, but I have friends that I've trained with. Some of the best people in the world that come from some of the best military units. So the best CQB units in the world is coming out of the Army. There's other units that do stuff, but the Army's Special Mission Unit, CAG, that's the best in the world for close quarter combat. And one of those guys that came from one of those units sent me something yesterday just for fun. He's like, check this out. And it was some dudes teaching CQB to a SWAT team, and it was straight up dumb. Like if they did that for real and there was really bad guys inside the building, they would get hurt. They would at the very least expose themselves to easily being hurt. I don't need to break it down because that's not the point. The point is that because you think you're doing something right doesn't mean you are. Because you think you look a certain way, it's meaningful. I have a friend that his name's Bob. Bob has a very significant background in war. He came from the #1 hostage rescue unit in the world, again from the Army's Special Missions Unit. You can read between the lines of what unit that is, and he spent years there. He's gone on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of missions where he kicked doors in bad guys' houses, in shot people in the face, and won, right? Well, he is still in the Army, but he's out doing some teaching, and he's got some videos out, and you watch him shoot, and he mounts his rifle and he shoots. And I saw some people saying he looks stupid the way that he's shooting. The way he holds the gun is dumb. The way that he mounts the rifle doesn't look right. It looks dumb. What the fuck does looks have to do with anything? The tactic supports the strategy and the goal. The tactic is, in this case, him being able to rapidly mount the rifle, overcome a threat by superior accuracy, superior speed, superior suppressive fire, and superior force, right? That's the tactic, and there's sub-tactics in there. It's not to look a certain way, and that is tactic stupid. And there was so many people that said these comments, and I would look on there and I'd say, how can you tell a person that's been in hundreds of gunfights, and lived and never got shot, didn't die, of course, because he's still here, came home to his family, came home to his mates, to his teammates, and he's alive? How can you question the validity of what they're doing? And that, unfortunately, is what we have now. It's tactic stupid because we think it should look a certain way. So here's talking about just raw mechanics. I have a friend, his name's Eric. Eric is a USPSA Grand Master. That doesn't mean that somebody's good at fighting. It means that person is excellent at shooting. It means he's in the top fraction of 1% of pistol shooters on the planet. And if you've never shot USPSA and you think you're good and you think you could shoot as good as a Grand Master, I've got news for you. You can't. There's not some guy out there. This is not like a Disney movie where there's some dude out there that's just shooting it in his backyard or shooting for Instagram that shoots at the same level. They don't. It's years of dedicated, focused practice. Anyway, my friend Eric taught himself to shoot a pistol. By the way, he shoots a stock Glock. So when people talk to me about upgrades to guns, it's like you just need to learn how to shoot. He shoots a stock Glock, reloads his own ammo, shoots 50, 60,000 rounds a year to maintain that level of skill. And he holds his gun in a way that we would never teach somebody to. I don't want to hold a gun up here in this parking lot. He holds his gun in a way that we would never teach somebody to. A way that shooters, that competitive shooters figured out years ago. No Instagram, YouTube people have invented how to hold a gun. That was created by IPSC shooters back in the 60s and 70s. Guys like Ken Hackathorn and Robbie Latham and dudes like that really started to hone what the grip looked like. Bill Wilson, owner of Wilson Combat, one of the founders of IDPA. So he would tell you, don't do what I'm doing, but he still achieves the outcome because he taught himself a bad grip, but he figured out how to make it work. And he shoots at a competitive level where he competes around the world with the best in the world. So you couldn't look at him and say that's stupid. It's not a good way of doing things when the outcome is supports his method. And that's the problem. We have to have, we can't decide on tactics and strategy when we don't have the ability to objectively and subjectively look at the whole and decide what's right. And that's the problem. We say, well, we'll just take what works for me and discard the rest. Well, tell you what, I'm not a CQB expert. So I'm not going to make decisions on what I think, but what I will do is I'll go to my friends that are experts. I'm not a cardiologist. I know a little bit about the heart, but I'm going to talk to my friend that's a heart doctor, and I'm going to see what they think because they're an expert. Yeah, I could go become a cardiologist. I could go become a CQB expert, but instead, why would I not go look to those that know? We put too much emphasis on how something looks rather than what the true efficacy is of it. Efficacy meaning its ability to work or not work. Not efficiency, the efficacy of it. We put way too much emphasis on what we think a thing should look like because people that have big social media accounts say it should look a certain way. We don't do a thing because it looks a certain way. We do a thing because it gets us the outcome that we desire. Period. That's what a tactic is. It will get the outcome that we desire. It allows us to impose our will into the world to get the outcome that we desire. And I am very scared for the future if we continue to look at the wrong people, look to the wrong people, look to people because of how many followers they have or how many subscribers or how many views they get. I'm going to tell you what. There are a lot of people on Instagram or Facebook or whatever that have big followings that shoot guns real fast. Most every man I know would be able to walk up to those guys. I'm talking about dudes that their whole premise is that they shoot real fast and they show you videos of how badass they are. And a lot of them are just little assholes, I'm sorry to say, not because they shoot guns fast. And this isn't me being sour grapes. I can shoot okay. I've got friends that are the best in the world as far as shooters. But when you base what you're doing and you're telling people that it's a tactic because of how fast you're running around and shooting cardboard targets and ringing steel, that's not a tactic. That's a fun time. That's playtime. When you make no specific use of cover, when your goal is to craft an entertaining video and you are not basing it on what through observation and science we have proved to be good sound tactics, you're helping people get hurt. That's what you're doing. You're passing on information that's erroneous in nature, and in reality, if you think that it's a substitute for truth, you are a false prophet of sorts. You are using a platform to lead people to what could be their death, or the death of a loved one, or injury. We have way too many people that are carrying guns now that don't take that responsibility as about the most serious thing in their life. Look, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I carry a gun. Literally, when I strap a gun on and I leave my house, it is as serious to me as my oath to my wife. It's as serious to me as my oath to my children. Because when I leave the house with that gun, I have a tool that if I use it, I can ruin your life. I can ruin these people around me's life if I make the wrong choice. I can ruin my family's life. I can ruin my own life. I can hurt people in a way that I cannot take it back. And that is something that I think way too often we don't think about. So talk about tactics again. When's the last time that your CPR card was updated? When is the last time that you instead of taking another shooting course, you took a course that taught you legitimate medical skills from somebody that legitimately has the ability to teach it? When's the last time that you began studying things like body language, human interaction, human education, adult education, rather? I apologize for misuse of that word. When's the last time that you started talking about things like managing space, managing unknown contacts, managing threats outside of violence, fire? Are you running fire drills at your house with your family? Do they know what to do if they wake up in a smoke-filled house? Do they know what to do if they wake up to the fire alarm going off? Do they know what to do? Do your kids know what to do if they get separated from you at the grocery store, at the mall, at the amusement park? Do your kids know what to do? I'm not just, it doesn't always go back to violence. Do your kids know what to do when the doorbell rings? Do you have a plan? And do they open the door for anybody? Do they come get you? Do they tell the person, hold on, I'm getting my mom? Do you have a plan for that? There are way too many legitimate threats in our world beyond violence that we're not training for, yet we strap these tools on and we think that we're doing ourselves a service. And I'm not just talking about going and shooting your gun more. Yes, that is important to maintain a high level of proficiency. Anybody that's followed us, the one thing that I've passed on since I ever began sharing things on the internet, good grip, good draw stroke, hyper accuracy. I don't care about your ability to shoot a big steel target fast. I want to know that you can control the muzzle and have awesome trigger finger discipline, which is ultimately you deciding when the gun goes off. That is a tactic. I will always know my target and what is beyond. I will use discrimination when I point this gun. I will practice things like how to use my words to address the area I'm in, if I have time. So we have things like emergency situations, right? The exigency of the circumstances are going to dictate our tactics. Meaning, if I have the ability to say, hey man, calm down, that is not the same as me opening a door, walking into the proverbial convenience store to seeing a person in an act of murder. That is a different scenario, right? I'm going to behave differently whether a situation is presenting itself where I must act now versus I have time to diffuse and work through it. That said, there are many awesome educators out there that are passing on information on all of these individual topics. I'm going to start naming a few in a moment, and if I don't name you or if I forget somebody's name, there's please forgive me. But the people I'm just going to start naming off the top of my head are mentors of mine, they're peers of mine, they're friends of mine, they're people I look up to, and they're people that in their own right are passing on information that is going to help you achieve your strategy, right? They're going to help you plug in tactics to achieve it. So, combative space, Instructor Z, Paul Sharp, you get guys like that, my friend Dan Hart, that are teaching people physical skills fighting wise. But then you start to also learn things like shooting from some of these same guys, Paul and Z. You got guys like D-Day Response Group, my friend Scott Puckett. You've got my buddy Joel Gupton from D-Day. You get guys like, I can just go through a list of people here. One of my mentors, Bob Housingay, Super Dave Harrington, Pat McNamara, a fantastic guy. Mike Pannone, a fantastic guy. Tom Givens, a fantastic guy. Jeff Gonzalez, Dave Spalding. There is just so many amazing instructors teaching tactics. Bob Keller, that it is impossible for you not to get this information. Guys like Dr. William April, who are great shooters and tacticians, but also specialize in the field of criminology, helping you understand the mind of the criminal. Now, there are certain people now that are coming on the scene trying to get into these different spaces, and a lot of them, all they're doing is copying these other people's work. In some ways, they try to put a little twist on it. Some of them are using contradictory methodologies that aren't proven. So if you come to our course or you go on our website, I've got a list of tons of people, for raw shooting skills. Go see my friend Gabe White. Check out my friend Les Keys Martoni, Les Pepperoni on the internet. Now, one thing I will also tell you is if we're talking about tactics, a tactic to me of living a long, full life is making sure I vet people that I bring in and out of my life. If I'm using this word tactic a lot, there's a reason. I want you to understand it's not just kicking a door down. The word, I want you to go look up what tactic meant in the Greek language. Tektos, I do believe, is where that word came from. We got all of these various resources that you've got to use. And my point I was about to make about tactics in our life is it is a tactic of mine for me to live a long, full life. To be full is full of love, it's full of joy, and I know there's going to be heartache in there, but I want to surround myself with people that have the same mind, people that are good, that are wholesome, that like to have fun like I do, but also can be serious. I want to remove people from my life that are dishonest. If you see people that I share with you that I no longer share with you, that might be because I found out that they're a dishonest dirtbag. Had to do that recently with somebody that totally burned down a relationship out of selfish greed. No longer need you in our life, and you're pushed out of our circle. I'm a cutthroat about that. Life is far too short to be around people that are out for themselves, do not have your interests in mind, and are self-centered and selfish. I'm going to check out some of your comments here, guys. Are you actually enjoying life? So Napoleon, are you talking to me? I don't know if that I'm looking back a little bit. Are you actually enjoying life? Yeah, I enjoy the living shit out of my life. Had a family member once that said, I'm not going to be scared my whole life like you. I'm not scared at all. I'm actually very calm. I'm very relaxed. Most of my friends. So that's the point of positioning yourself to pay attention in places and spaces. That's good sense. That's something we've talked about for years. Awareness is the currency with which you buy time to act. So when we teach our kids to drive, what's one of the number one things we teach them besides operating the vehicle? We teach them spacing themselves between the next car in front of them so that they have reaction time. That's what we're doing when we position ourselves in a place to see. We're positioning ourselves so we have time to react. Am I enjoying life? Yeah. Any creature on this earth that can become prey to another, meaning like a deer, right? A deer is very fast, but there's animals that can take a deer down. They're enjoying life until they're not. When the coyotes or the cougar attack them and kill them. Bet you they wish they were paying more attention. The thing is, though, you can really enjoy life by learning what to pay attention for or pay attention to. Yep, E.T. Nem, right? Thanks, bro. Yeah, of course we have an Instagram. It's CarryTrainer. I'm reading through here. Cutting donuts on the S12 range. 3 key points: situational awareness, active preparation, and don't be a Richard. So, being situationally aware, I think, is another one of those tactics that's often been bastardized and watered down. Not suggesting that this is your point, but I constantly remind people you can be aware of somebody sticking a knife into your face. Awareness not coupled with action is kind of meaningless. And I think that's what you're talking about with active preparation. And for the most part, almost all trouble, I said this last year, almost all trouble can be avoided by being nice and paying attention. I firmly believe that. I think I would go through the back door. Yeah, that's true. So talking about back doors in places, this is should become part of your strategy when you're out and about. When I'm moving into places I've never been, I do this almost subconsciously. When my kids were young, I'd ask, where are we going if there's a fire? Where are we going if everybody's going to the front door? And they would look for exit signs. Most places have a back door, but I kind of take a peek. So I, at the very least, have an idea where it is, so I'm not having to take a peek when I need to. Yep. Thank you for that, Don Mathis. Thanks, Jay. I'm just reading through these to see if there's something. Yeah, man, Josh, you're right. Yep, good one. Stop the bleed, CPR and judo, verbal judo. Thank you. Tactic does not mean advantage. That's not what tactic means. And that is my point. It could be an advantage, but there's more to it than advantage. It is a skill set that creates an advantage. So it can't. It's you arm wrestling with your dad when you were a kid. He had an advantage. That's not a tactic. He's just physically stronger than you. So you need to develop things that give you that advantage. Cool, Tom. Yeah, Pat's great. Actually, if you go to Pat's channel, Pat has a video that I did for him at a class. It's on this channel too. You own everything in front and behind all of your decisions. I agree. Tactaholic. Yeah. So I get an interesting exposure to this community of people, getting to train people. I will say that the folks that are attracted to the message we put out might be different than others. So most of the people that come to our training courses, I think are a little bit, let me rephrase that. Many of them are on the deeper thinking side of things. I dig that. They want to develop a broader, deeper knowledge base. Nobody wants to be shallow, I don't think, but a lot of the folks that come to our stuff are deeper thinkers. That said, I've had well over 1,000 hours of formal instruction just in shooting classes. If you think about that, that's a metric ton of hours. I'm not talking about me training on the range. I mean me as a student in a class I paid to go to, over 1,000 hours. That's a lot of classes. Doesn't mean anything for any point other than this one. I've hung out with a lot of people, collectively thousands of people that are out there trying to get better. And there's a lot of dudes that I have seen. So there's like a training circuit in the US. I can go pretty much anywhere in the country and I can step onto a range and probably see somebody in a class that I've seen in another class. And like, oh man, cool. I mean, I was with Kyle DeFore in the Dakotas, in South Dakota. And there's a dude that I've been at a class with in the other side of the country. Because in reality, it's a pretty small community of people that go to all these courses. People think, oh, I'm going to get in the training world. There's so many customers. There's not all these customers. There's a small group of gun owners that actually pay to go train. But anyway, I get this exposure to all of these various people, and I tell you, I've run into guys, and it's like, oh, I saw this dude years ago at a Dave Harrington course, or at a Ken Hackathorn course, or Mike Pannone, or whatever, and the guy isn't any better. He's still doing the same goofy stuff. He's still doing the same goofiness because his goals haven't changed. He's there for fun, or he's there because he's not expanding his brain. He's not digging deeper. And it's like, okay, and it's not just about, I'm not just talking about skill and proficiency of developing more speed or a faster draw stroke or something like that. I'm talking about broadening, where you can see, okay, this guy is seeing the bigger picture. He's seeing the whole picture more clearly, and they're still there doing the same game. They're still the guy. So when I made that comment the other day about guys fighting for their back against the wall, and dudes got upset because that's them, all it means is you just haven't elevated yourself, man. Yes, I want to be able to see the whole space. But don't forget that there's the ability for a truck to come through the wall. Don't forget that a fire can break out in the kitchen. Don't forget that the person sitting right next to you might snap and get up and start shooting people. Don't forget that you might have a freaking coronary artery about to get plugged up and give you a heart attack. Don't forget that your loved ones might choke on a piece of meat and you may have to give them life-saving CPR. Don't forget that you may get in a car crash on the way home with somebody that crosses the center line seconds ahead of you. Don't forget that all of these things happen. It's not just about where you put yourself in a freaking restaurant. And that is the challenge. You know, how many of us go to the airport? You don't have a gun there. I don't care who you are. Even law enforcement officer is not boarding an airplane unless it is in extremely special circumstances armed with a gun. Even if you're a big city SWAT cop, you're not getting on an airplane with a gun on your hip unless there is an extremely crazy situation. So who goes to the airport? Who goes into a public courthouse or your kid's school? You're not armed there. You're not armed in those places. Who's ever laid in a hospital bed? Your tactics have to change. And what happens as you age? What happens as your family ages? What happens as the dynamics around you change? That is the thinking part. And this is the part that weighs on me as I listen to people argue about something that to me is stupid. It's stupid to argue about it because it means you're not thinking about the big picture. Do you ever go on vacation to Mexico, Europe, Canada, a place that you can't walk around with your guns? Your tactics better fucking change or you're not going to live through a problem. And all these things that we keep going back to. And when I say medical, I'm not even talking about being able to apply a tourniquet. Do you understand how to recognize signs of allergic reaction? You know, everybody that ever had anaphylaxis, their throat closed up. Anybody that ever had it happen, there was a first time it happened, meaning it maybe never happened in their life until this day that the bee sting them, until this time that they ate this certain thing. Do you understand how to recognize that? What are you investing your time in? And if it's all this tactical bullshit, which most of it's bullshit, you're really not making yourself any safer for the totality of what life is. You're at the very least making yourself think you're safer in a very narrow sliver of trouble that life may present itself. Life may present to you. That's a challenge, man. That's hard for people to understand when they've spent a long time thinking about a problem. And that's part of it right there. What are you thinking about? Well, when you spend all your free time watching videos on the internet about shootings and about, violence, you really start to think about all the violence in the world. When you spend all your time watching videos on politics, you really start to think about politics. When you spend all your time watching conspiracy theories, everything becomes a conspiracy. We've got to begin to broaden our scope, start to think about a better diet, man. You drinking enough water? By the way, this is some really great powdered greens with collagen, which is basically ground up bones. Delicious. All that chocolate's making my voice sore. Are you concerned about things like I've said, your physical well-being? Are you doing enough physical exercise? And here's a challenge for you, my dudes. If you're exercising now and you're not getting any fitter, just ramp it up like 5%. You know, like if you go, last year I started walking, and I've been physical my whole life. I used to, as a kid, we'd ride our bikes hundreds of miles a summer, heck, probably thousands. You know, lived on a farm, worked on a farm. I worked physically as a carpenter for years, but our body gets adapts to work. That's how you can see like somebody that works physically have a big gut. Their body gets efficient at doing certain things. So if you're plateauing, do a little more. Instead of working out for a half an hour, change up some of those exercises and work out for an hour. Work out for 45 minutes. If you're doing things like push-ups, instead of doing 50, do 75, do 100. Do some air squats. Instead of doing 50, do 75, do 100. So something I try to do every day, no matter what. I try to every day do at least 100 push-ups, 100 air squats, 100 crunches, and I sometimes will do those. I'll do some of those instead of crunches on the ground. I'll hang from a bar, pull my knees up. We've got a section of countertop in my house where I can put my hands on 2 countertops, and I'll pull my knees to my chest or my legs straight out in an L-sit position. That's at the very least. I can do that in a hotel room. I can do that in anywhere I'm at in the world. I can do those exercises and continue to keep moving. I can work on breath control. If you haven't seen our podcasts or videos here on YouTube with Brian McKenzie, a world-renowned expert on breathing and how it controls the metabolics in our body, how it controls things like stress, how it controls things like heart rate, your ability to sleep well. There's a lot of science behind it. He works with people like some of the best surgeons in the world, helping them to become better by relaxing. He works with some of the best special operations units in the world. Not them teaching him, but him teaching them. He works with some of the best athletes in the world, and right now he's got a project he's doing with inmates at San Quentin Prison, one of the most prolific prisons in the world, full of some really bad people. He's helping them overcome past mistakes so that when they leave prison, if they ever leave it, they are taking control of their life, and they're starting with things like breath. That might sound like hocus pocus to you, but you got to start to understand physiology. Are you working on things like that? So tactics, man. So somebody said an advantage. I 100% agree. I want an advantage to a long, full life, not just how I pie a corner, not just how I draw my gun, not just how I squeeze the trigger, but how I engage with you. I want to every day strive to be a better father, a better husband. I want to strive to be a better communicator with you, but also with my wife, with my kids, with my friends. I want to strive to enjoy. Somebody asked earlier, do I enjoy life? I enjoy the living heck out of my life. I will drive 100 miles to watch a sunset if it's going to be a beautiful one. I will drive 100 miles to have the best cup of coffee and talk with a friend. I will drive 1,000 miles to feel something that's meaningful and full of joy, I will drive 1,000 miles to bury a loved one so that I can feel the loss of them, so that the love that I had for them and they had for me is ingrained in me through that pain of loss. Yeah, I live a good life, and I'm proud to. I can also say I've lived years of my life depressed, full of anxiety, full of anger, full of rage because of all the things I didn't have, because of bad thinking, because of bad tactics on how I approached life, because of lack of a goal, because of no strategy to reach a goal even when I set a goal, because of self-doubt and not understanding how to harness the elements that are given to us at birth by our Creator. And that's really what this is all about. That's what tactics are. It's using the elements that are around you, that are given to you at birth by our Creator, by the cosmos, by the universe, to develop an advantage to achieve the life that you want. And that life is not just achieved someday in the future, it's every day you earn it. Every single day you go out there and you earn the life that you want. You earn the relationships that you want. You earn them not just by making friends with people that you want to be around, but by being the kind of friend you want. You earn the kind of relationship with a woman or with your mate, life partner I'm talking about, by not just finding the right person, but by working your ass off to have that relationship. And I've screwed relationships up. I've screwed them up, man. So I kind of I arrive at these conclusions over heartache and loss and at times self-deprecation and self-loathing because of mistakes. So it's a constant battle. So are your goals supportive of what you really want? Do they align? You know, I had dinner last night with my wife, and we had a young man that we've met before that's going through some stuff at his job, and he hates it. Nobody keeps you at a job. This is where my conversations always go, because it's simple, man. Nobody keeps you at a job. We don't live in communist country where we're forced into some job. You can go wherever you want. You could say, no, man, I got a family. I can't just leave. No, that's the anchor that you're using because you're afraid of change, or you're afraid to make the move. That's the anchor that you self-imposed, that you shackled to yourself. Tactics, man. It is an advantage. I like whoever said that, the way that they said it, and sometimes I condense things, so I apologize that I kind of jumped on you. There is more to it than an advantage, but that is the sum of it. We are creating an advantage with the elements around us, with all of the knowledge that's around us, to achieve an objective, achieve a goal. And those tactics change depending on where you're at, depending on who you're with, depending on what the desired end goal is. I got a security guard pulling up behind me. This could be interesting. Let's see what he wants. Okay, never mind. He's out. There's like a mall cop with freaking cameras all over the front of that vehicle. That's what I got for you guys. I wanted to do this video here. We talked a little bit on Instagram about it, but that video disappears. And I wanted to put it up here because, you know, not everybody sees our stuff. We've got some folks that follow us, and I appreciate it, but you know, we don't have the following others do, because we're not putting out the sexy content. I can run around and shoot if that's what you want to see, but I wouldn't be true to myself. Running around and shooting guns is fun. It's not educational, though. Running around and shooting guns isn't what's really moving the ball down the field and making us better versions of ourselves. It's fun. So that's not for me. I do that. If you come to our classes, if you've been at our classes, we shoot the snot out of guns. And I push you to become a better shooter. But I push you to become a better version of you while becoming a better shooter. And that's what we do. If you're interested in our courses, CarryTrainer.com. We've got a lot of good ones on the calendar this year. Out in Nashville, we're going to have our S12 event coming up in May. And we will probably do another one towards the end of the year. We've got our Dudes Weekend, which is going to be in northern Tennessee by the Kentucky border, by the land between the lakes. Dudes Weekend is going to be very special. My friend Z and my friend Kevin are going to be there. We're going to be shooting rifles and pistols and working on some land navigation, good old-fashioned land navigation, to help you if you're ever lost in the woods, to help you navigate in places that you've never been with map and compass. That's a very cool skill that I think is something that we dads and moms should have to pass on to our kids. I've been in many places where the old GPS doesn't work, and it's good to be able to know how to get where you're going. We've got a lot of opportunities to train with us, and we've also got some speaking engagements, and if you're ever interested in that, we'll come out to your church, your business, and do a private event for you and yours. So that's all I got. If these videos are helpful to you, if they're thought-provoking, please share them. If you've attended our courses, put a review up online. Go to ratemyshootinginstructor.com and check out the reviews that are up there. Put one up, or if you're interested. If you're trying to find out more information about us, you can send us a message to training@carrytrainer.com. And that's it, guys. I've never really been the guy that's asked for people to like and share. I'm starting to do that more because I think it is what helps us grow. So like this video, share it if you dig it. Copy and paste over to your Facebook page. I'm kind of tired of watching tech to stupid continue to proliferate the internet, when some of the stuff that I'm talking about here, not because it's my truth, but because they are truths that I've gleaned from men and women much smarter than myself, needs to be heard, guys. I care about you. I care about your families. You and I think together, I don't think it, I know it, can continue our republic. We can continue to proliferate this great cause of liberty, not just by being good shooters, not just by being good people, but by promoting the right ideals, the right goals, the right mindset to the world, to our kids, in our community, standing up for what's right, by helping get the right people elected. We can do it. Do it together. Be well. Love you. Don't be dickheads. Peace out.